Did you know that abortion can be very traumatic? Stay tuned. Hi, friends. I'm Alveda King, and welcome back to Pro-Life Praise. This particular background might remind you of some of our earlier days with Pro-Life Praise. We started right in 2020 when the COVID-19 hit. And at that time, sometimes I would record outside just to have a little peace and connect with God and all of that. So I'm outside this on this particular time with nature and with God and with you. I'm talking about a very sensitive subject, abortion trauma. And I think it's going to be very important for you to stay tuned at this time. And many people will say, well, abortion is just not bad. It doesn't hurt as bad as pulling a tooth and all of that. That's certainly not true. And abortion can have long-term lasting effects. I have called in a very good friend of mine, Dr. Theresa Burke, who is also an expert on trauma. And I'm going to have her talk to you about her mission, her ministry, and then we'll get a little more into actually the trauma of abortion. But first, I just like for you to meet Dr. Burke, because interestingly enough, when I came to work at Priests for Life, and it's been 16 years ago actually, and I needed some abortion healing myself. I went through Rachel's Vineyard, where Theresa founding that for healing for men and women who have been impacted by the trauma of abortion. And Theresa counseled me and helped me with some intimacy issues. Also my intimacy with God, because I had withdrawn from God. And so that is a little bit about my relationship with Dr. Theresa Burke. However, I'm going to have her speak to you candidly and professionally today about abortion trauma. But first, let's meet Dr. Theresa. Come on in, Theresa. Hello.
Hi, Alveda. It's so good to see you.
Good to see you too.
We've been through a lot together in our pro-life work, and certainly for the healing that you've experienced has enabled you to really not only be closer to God, but then to be the evangelist that you are so many years later. And you're a gift to everybody, Alveda. Thank you.
Well, thank you so much. Actually, I'd like for you to talk a little bit first about yourself, your ministry. You and your husband, Kevin Burke, who's also an author and does a lot for healing for men specifically, but abortion healing. Just talk to us a few minutes, Theresa, about how you came to be the founder of Rachel's Vineyard.
Well, I was actually in graduate school working on a master's degree before I got a PhD. And one of my first internships was to lead a support group for women with eating disorders. And the subject of abortion came up in that group. And it was like a bomb going off as I saw all the traumatic responses of fight or flight, fear, freeze. One woman even ran out of the room and slammed the door because she couldn't tolerate the feelings that just that word was bringing up. So when there's been a trauma associated with an abortion, which is an event that's outside normal life that isn't anticipated, and women are assaulted really with unexpected feelings of loss, grief, guilt, because we always think of abortion as a woman's choice or a form of empowerment or something that they believe they wanted, but that's not the way women experience abortion. It's really a death experience. It's the loss of their own child. And so there's a trauma associated with their maternal identity, and it's outside the normal range of everyday experiences. So being witness to that, having the invasion go into your body, the violence, and there's a psychological boundary that's broken, a violation of a woman's nurturing and desire to protect the life of her child, which is kind of instinctual. Even all the animals have it, and we as humans certainly have it. So this violation leads to many of the symptoms of post-abortion trauma. At the time, I never learned about this in graduate school, but I saw it in my group. I went to my supervisor, who was a psychiatrist. I said, this is what happened in the group. And he leaned in and he said, I had no business prying into people's abortions. He said it was a personal, private thing, and I wasn't supposed to bring it up in the group. And I said, but I didn't bring it up. Debbie brought it up. She's having nightmares and flashbacks. I think she has post-traumatic stress disorder. And he said that was a psychotic reaction caused by her medication, and on no certain terms was I to bring it up. So I left that group very disillusioned. I knew that there was a lot more to the reaction that it brought up in everyone, and that I wanted to learn more about those feelings that underlied it, that he said we shouldn't and couldn't talk about, because it's not what you're eating, it's what's eating you, like any addiction. So I really wanted to explore this. I left that group and I started one of the first therapeutic support groups for healing after abortion. And that turned into Rachel's Vineyard after developing a monthly support group model that went on for a number of weeks. I decided to do it in a weekend retreat format, which is very powerful. And I saw really quickly that just talking about the experience didn't necessarily make it better. In fact, so many women and men would become so aroused just by recounting the story. And by aroused, I mean traumatized, having symptoms of fight, flight, maybe anxiety.
To those feelings, they would wake up and be aware of those feelings that they had buried for so long.
Well, it's like a live wire that's kind of shocking. And their voice would tremble, their hands would shake, they would feel panic and anxiety attacks. So just approaching it, this is why a lot of people avoid it, or they go into the fight mode where they're going to fight for the right just to sort of push aside any negative feelings or regret or grief. So that's really what we started with. And I saw really quickly that, like I said, talking about it didn't fix it, but then I incorporated spiritual rituals, rituals for grieving, for releasing grief, and sort of a faith-based model that was very different and unique. It's not a Bible study. It's an experience of Jesus interacting with us in our woundedness. And so therefore, we consider it a therapy for the soul, because we're inviting God to fill the emptiness in every meditation and in every ritual, because some experiences defy words, and even just trying to put words to these really powerful traumatic feelings can be distressing in and of itself. So people do share their story, but there's a lot of exercises designed to release grief and focus grief and let it come out, because that's what's missing after the trauma of abortion, is that many women don't process their feelings. They go through this regrettable, horrible physical experience, emotional experience, and even spiritual experience of loss and death of their child. And then they never talk about it again. It's a carefully guarded secret. 50% of women hide the fact they even had abortions from researchers, from their own OBGYN doctors, because there's a lot of shame involved, and there's a lot of trauma involved. So it's almost like they just block it out, put it away. And this blocked out emotions, the unprocessed feelings, is what comes back in all the symptoms that we well know are of post-traumatic stress disorder, the acting out, the repeat pregnancy, the high rates of repeat pregnancy and repeat abortions. And there's a whole plethora of different symptoms that people struggle with, and none of them are really life-giving.
Theresa, you know that I experienced much of everything that you just described. And of course, I went through the Rachel's Vineyard healing experience, and it remains as part of my strength and everything that has helped me. I became pro-life in 1983 when I became born again. And I began to minister to others about abortion and all that for many years, but it was not until around 2004 or so, 4 or 5, that I went through that degree of healing myself. I have a picture, and I think we can show that on the screen right now. I hope we can pull it up, and it's for generations to come. I have a poem that I had written many, many years ago, and I put my grandfather and me in the drawing now, and I'm holding my little healing box from Rachel's Vineyard. Everybody doesn't know what that box is in my lap, but that is that I had to, there was a memorial program The names of my children were recorded in that program. And so all of the wonderful, wonderful healing. I want to shift gears just for a moment. I've got a new song out. It's called Your Way, Yahweh, with Kathy Lee Gifford, and saying to God, have your way, and asking people to take these problems to the Lord. And so we're going to do a little trailer from Your Way, Yahweh, and come right back. I have a philosophy, overcome evil with good. That's in the Bible. Don't be overcome by evil, but overcome evil with good. So I began to get to know God more, Yahweh. Let me do this your way, Yahweh. And that began to form as a song. So I met Ian and Barry. To my surprise, Kathy Lee Gifford came in on the project, and we began to worship the Lord.
In all the earth, there's none beside you. Open our eyes and let us see.
So it just shows us that we as people can come together. Now we just have to really learn how to say, your way, Yahweh. Are we going to stop doing it our way and start doing it God's way?
My name is Alveda King. I'm inviting you to join in the worship experience, Your Way, Yahweh. Wow. So, all of us, Theresa, really just need to turn to God for the healing. And you are very good with that in the way that you present the issues and the healings. Now, sometimes you have celebrities who are in the news who have experienced abortion as well. And right now we have one, Brianna McNeill. Are you familiar with the Brianna McNeill case where she had the abortion because she wanted to go ahead and run, because she's a runner, professional runner, and then she needed to take a drug test and didn't take it because she was traumatic from the abortion? Can you talk a little bit about Brianna McNeill, and maybe does she regret her abortion or not? I don't know.
This is a tremendously tragic story because she's an Olympic hopeful and was preparing for the Olympics. This is a lifetime of practice and work and dedication. And in the middle of all that, it was actually in January of 2020, she had an abortion so that it wouldn't interfere with her performance in the upcoming Olympics, which sadly and tragically were canceled because of all the COVID pandemic. So here she lost her child. Then she lost her opportunity to compete in the Olympics. And because she missed a drug test for the steroids and the things that are illegal and for athletes, they do periodic testing, and she missed that date. And then she was forced to disclose this very private, personal secret. I said many women keep it a secret. It's the last thing they would want is for the whole world to know, but she had to defend herself as to why she didn't show up for the drug testing. And they were probably assuming that she was guilty of taking drugs, but she wasn't. And she had that same week had suffered the loss of her child in an abortion that she felt was necessary to continue in her career. The really awful thing, Alveda, after all of this, is that when she disclosed this tragedy, one of the things which isn't uncommon with victims of trauma is that there's a disorientation of time and space. She didn't remember the exact date. So the date that she reported was different than the date when she had to give proof of where she was, because at first she just said, I had an unexpected medical procedure.
Keep it all clear. That happened to me and so many of us. Now listen, Theresa, we're going to have you back, obviously, because people probably have so many questions going through their minds and say, well, that kind of maybe did happen to me when I had my abortion too. All of this. So we're praying for you as we uncover all this, that God and Jesus Christ, Holy Spirit are right there with you, and you can find out more with Theresa. She has a powerful book. In our bookstore at Prolife Products .org or .com, Forbidden Grief is Theresa's book. And I've got my book, King Rules. I talk about my abortions and how God healed me in those, and we're not colorblind. So there is help and healing. We don't want to just give you all this information and tell you God loves you, God can forgive you, has forgiven you. You need to learn how to forgive yourself. Now, Follow us on social media as well. Me on Facebook at Civil Rights for the Unborn Official. On Twitter, just by name, Alveda King, and Civil Rights for the Unborn on Instagram. And you can find rachelsvineyard.org and more healing. Abortion can be traumatic, but there is healing for abortion. Theresa, I want to mention real quick, because we're going to come back and let you have some final words in just a moment. But I am the executive producer of a film, Roe v. Wade. And Roe v. Wade tells how abortion became legal. You can see a little bit of Norma McCorvey's dilemma in that movie. She never had an abortion, but she became the poster child for Roe v. Wade and all of that. So we invite you to read Theresa's books, and there's an S on that word, books. One of them, Forbidden Grief, right over at the Priest for Life store. Now, let's look at a little trailer from Roe v. Wade.
We will hear arguments in Roe against Wade. You may proceed.
If you really want to know how abortion became legal in our country, I will tell you the true story.
Dr. Mildred Jefferson, would you like to head up a Right to Life group that I'm starting?
Dr. Bernard Nathanson's clinics are performing 1,000 abortions per week. That's why I'm taking up the fight.
I wanted to get abortion legalized across the country.
We're looking for a pregnant girl to challenge the abortion laws. We'll give her a pseudonym. Call her Jane Roe.
It's genius that way no one will ever know about her past.
First, they came after the Jews, and then they came after the mentally deficient. We did nothing. And now they're coming after the unborn. And so you're gonna do nothing?
Robert Byrd for Henry Wade.
No judge or jury in their right mind would ever let abortion happen in Texas. You've been watching too much TV. This case has nothing to do with women's rights.
It's God's duty to forgive. It's ours to rule the law. You're changing your vote because your family found out. Or was it the media?
If we don't sort this out, fur will fly today.
You are trying to control this, Warren, old buddy. That is completely unethical.
In the matter of Roe v. Wade, I want the case re-argued.
Faith in God, respect for his law.
That law being?
Human law. We got the majority. We're gonna win.
Perhaps this is beyond the authority of the Supreme Court. We are the law of the land.
These girls should not be put through the pregnancy and should be entitled to an abortion.
God, forgive me, what have I done?
The true silent minority. Who is speaking for these children?
This is my body, an empty shell without your love. I see you in the face of every child. This is my body, but you are always in my heart, always in my mind. If I could choose again, there'd be no choice for me but you. I'd do what I must do. I'd even give my life for you. This is my body. You cannot tell me what to do. It's not up to you. I will decide. This is my body, and I alone will choose. If this life within me lives or dies, is my body. I'll do what I must do. This is my life. I will not sacrifice my life for you.
This is my body given up for you, that you might live eternally. This is my body, that thy will be done, not mine. Broken as the bread, crushed as the wine. This is my body. I do what I must do. I give my life a sacrifice of love for you. This is my body given up for you.
I have the right to choose. I have so much to lose. Don't tell me what to do.
This is my body, that thy will be done, not mine.
If I could choose again, there'd be no choice for me but you. I don't know you. I'll never hold you. You're always there, awake or in my dream.
I give my life.
This is my life. I cannot sacrifice my life. I would do anything for you. I can see no other way. The choice is me or you.
Father, forgive them. They know not what they do.
How can I forgive myself for what I've done to you?
My wounds have set you free. Do this in remembrance of me. This is my body given up for you, that you might live eternally. This is my body, yet thy will be done, not mine. Broken as the bread, crushed as the wine. This is my body.
I do what I must do.
I give my life a sacrifice of
Sacrifice for you. I give my life. I'll give my life a sacrifice.
a sacrifice of love for you.
Would you like some more coffee?
Sure.
Hope you enjoy the show.
Thanks. I know I will.
This is my body given up for you, that you might live eternally.
Theresa, as we see in that video, this is my body. It is our body. It's the Lord's body, and the Lord has given his body. And the Lord has also provided healing for us. I'd like to have you speak the last words to those who are thinking about abortions, maybe have had abortions, and give us that hope and that promise.
Well, for any listeners that have suffered the loss of a child, as Alveda said, not only is there hope, but there's healing. Healing, and when I think about healing, I think it doesn't mean to turn back the time to where you weren't hurt. It's that you can find meaning in what's happened and have incredible gifts to share with others. And I think that this is seen throughout the world with our ministry and also with Silent No More, when people share their testimony as a way of honoring their child. And like any cause, when we lose someone close to us from, like, you know, if your child was killed by a drunk driver, like the Mothers Against Drunk Driving, they want to do something and take an action where they can use the tragedy of what's happened to help others. And I've heard many women say, if the life of my baby, their story shared, saves one woman from the hell that they've gone through, it's worth everything. So that's like finding meaning and transforming, or because of the passion you have to help other women in crisis pregnancy. But Rachel's Vineyard is held all over the world. We're in 80-some countries and 37 languages. It continues to spread because abortion is a traumatic experience, and it's spread by those men and women whose lives it changed because they thought they were the only one. We don't hear about this a lot in the media because abortion's legal. It's presumed to be safe. And so even with Brianna, our Olympic star, you know, she was invalidated when she said she was so traumatized by the abortion. Not only did she lose track of time, but she forgot all about the testing because that took precedence.
Because it takes time. It does. Well, Theresa, we've got to wrap it. And so we know that there's hope and healing. People
there is.
Visit Theresa and get your healing and help others as well. Okay, friends, we'll have Theresa back. Until next time, God bless you.